In this episode, we are going to be connecting as humans. This is going to be a little bit different. This is not going to be political. We're not going to do our usual intro asking for reviews. We're going to dive right into a very important conversation that we all need to have and what we can do to change the state of the world. So, in case you missed it, well, you didn't miss the assassination attempt unless you've been on vacation without any service. That night, I did make a story on social media just saying, praying for Trump, praying for those who are there, praying for our country, praying for anyone who views this event as divisive. And then I forget exactly what I said, but just something along the lines of the only action that's acceptable or that we can take from this point is to move forward together. Thinking there should be no,
there should be no backlash.
There should be no backlash. There was a murder attempt. So even if you don't like the guy, someone almost killed him. That was the one shouldn't have been red flag, but potential red flag in what I had said. Hang on here. Technical difficulties. All right, I think we're back. Only potential red flag. Everything else was for those who were there. That's a traumatizing event for our country. It can be traumatizing. There's a lot of emotion involved in what just happened. For those who view this event as divisive. The reason I'm praying for you is because you have some things you need to work through on a personal level. And so I guess the top and the bottom, the Trump and the divisive, caught some people. It was meant to be anti-polarizing. It should not have been a polarizing post. It was, let's all come together. Like, regardless of your thoughts and feelings, if you're a Biden guy, if you're a Trump guy, if you are a purple guy, let's all come together and like, hey, this is wrong. Let's grow from this. Let's come together. Got the most likes, got the most story views, likes on a story, most story views that I think I've ever had. And then also probably the most unfollows I've had in a 12-hour period. So literally an anti-polarizing post story was the most polarizing thing I have ever put up.
I don't think in 2024 on the internet there is such thing as a non-polarizing statement. And this could be as silly as like, I don't eat cheese, and people have an issue with that. Like, you can't say anything today without somebody having something to say about it or having an issue with it, which is really sad, honestly. I think that it's something that I see often, just having the audience that I have. There's a lot more eyeballs on my page. And this was something that you have to learn in the beginning days of being an influencer or being somebody who has a lot of eyeballs on them at all times, is you can't, and I'm not saying this to you, I'm just saying in general, like, you have to let that stuff grow. Let that stuff go, because people will always have an issue with every single thing that you put out there. And it's like, you have to either put 1,000,001 disclaimers to it, which is irrelevant because not every post and every sentence can be like this inclusive
even in the
thing
health,
for everybody.
The health situation,
That's
the
what
health
I mean.
sphere, like, hey, this, but also asterisk, blah, 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 blah.
And also this, and nuance. And yeah,
just
nuance is a thing, but like, I think we're at the point where people like can't even think for themselves in that scenario. They can't look at something and be like, all right, that doesn't apply to me. I'm just going to let it go. You know, like, it always has to be, well, what about this? Or like, there's always an argument for it every time with every single thing that you put out there.
I do think there will be if we have civilization in 20 years, there will be a documentary about this period of time where we were kind of like, what was it? The Social Experiment on Netflix? Is that Facebook? Is it called The Social Experiment?
Something like that.
Round 2 of that, where it's all forms media, where we have been programmed to be in this situation, to view everything from this mindset where I am right, you are wrong. If you do not agree with me and come around, you are evil. It's the way our kids are growing up now, who are on screens all day. It's the way adults have been programmed to trust the media, to believe in the media. And that's like the one underlying thing. And I want to get back to, we'll come back to this, but the one pointed sword that I've used in conversations is if you are still living by what the media is telling you, you haven't woken up yet. Like, forget woke nation, cancel culture, forget all those things. We've been blatantly lied to for at least the last 4 years on several different things.
Not even just political things. Like
just
everything
just
that
everything.
they spew out is like for sensationalism, for views, for whoever gets the most ratings. And
RFK was talking about some kind of, I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert in this. I'm just going to kind of regurgitate what I remember from seeing this post. But something along the lines of fair media, and you could only purchase media in certain areas and of certain forms so that there wasn't this one overlap of someone owning most things and controlling everything you see, hear, and read. The way it works today is I think there's like 4 to 8 major companies in the world who own basically all of media. So the narrative is controlled by a very specific group. So when you want to talk about political leaders, I won't say around the world, but specifically in our country, being the controllers, it's probably not even them. So for those who dislike Biden, for example, I don't have any disdain for the man. I'm not going to get into this. Again, this is not political. But I don't think he's doing a whole lot. I think he's in office with dementia because someone else understands how easy it is to pull the strings and how much easier it is to pull the strings. So that's as political as I'm going to get as far as a statement. For those of you who love Biden, he seems like a sweet old man. I feel very bad for him at the stage that he's in right now. I have no ill will towards anybody, really. Let's just say that. I don't have any ill will. Nobody's harmed me in any way, shape, or form.
you wouldn't want him to die.
No, absolutely not. If he fell off with a stroke and said, oh, good thing. Now we can have someone else who's in there who can actually do something. That would be just as outrageous as me saying I'm praying for someone who almost got shot in the head. And everyone else saying, too bad they missed. So that's as political as I get with it. That is my only beef is with media and the way they're programming not only our kids, but everyone else in the room.
Well, I think it's funny because the other night right before all this happened, it was actually when it was happening. Whenever you turn our TV on, we don't have cable, but like the 2 channels they give you for free or whatever it is, it's always on the news when you initially turn the TV on, like before you go into Netflix or wherever we're going. So I was turning the TV on for Kai to watch a show for a little bit before bed, and the news was on and you saw Trump on there, and I was like, what the heck's happening? Because it looks like a big thing, but I didn't really get to read it yet. And he was like, Mommy, this is a bad show. We don't watch this. And
He's right.
He's right. I mean, the news is depressing. It's meant to make you feel things. It's meant to make you, it tugs on your emotions. It tugs on your heartstrings in a way that isn't really doing any value
Which
to
is
your
exactly
life.
my point. We're being herded into this corner, into this mindset.
We have never been people who have had the news on ever since I've met you. We don't ever just keep the news on the TV. Like, that's just not who we are.
For mental health reasons.
For mental health reasons.
For that reason.
We do not watch the news. And I remember like when I first said this, like probably 10 years ago when we first met, I think I said it somewhere on Instagram, and someone was like, well, that's a very privileged way to live. And I was just like, I don't want to ruin my mental health by listening to whatever terrible thing is happening in the world today. And that's just one decision that we have been consciously making over the years.
Granted, we stay aware of public events. We just don't turn the news on in our household.
We don't listen to the news. And, there's a lot of independent journalists, I guess you can call them, who... That's how they do a much better job. And it's not that they don't have any opinions, because they do. They're just not run by any big corporation. So they are more free to deliver information that actually is the facts.
Or even if it's skewed through their specific lens and their preferences, if you follow a diverse range of them,
it gives you perspective.
Gives you perspective.
So that's really how we kind of, at least I stay up on current events and all of that, which has been really helpful because I can control when I'm taking it in. It's not just playing in the background all day. But I just thought it was interesting that even Kai knows, like, at 5 years old, Mommy, don't watch that. That's a bad show. We don't watch that. Like, that's just how he's growing up. Whereas when, I'm not saying this in a negative way, but like our parents still watch TV, and I think it's that generation of media usage. Like that was all they had when they were young adults or even growing up. Like, it was just TV was really the only option. Reading the newspaper was the only option before
Radio,
the internet came about.
TV.
So that's how you got your information. But now we have so many better options. And I think that it does definitely impact your mental health by filtering those options for yourself. But also, like, I don't know. I feel like TV and the mainstream media and the way that we know it today, or even the way that we knew it 10 years ago, is slowly just declining. And I don't know how much longer that will be here, honestly.
Media?
Yeah. Well, like the mainstream media.
So you think that from our world, but then there are clearly several other people who are just eating it up. And
True.
Obviously all the money is behind it. So they're not going anywhere until they find a new way where they can flood you from some other angle. But I want to circle back to this because this is going to stem a lot of this conversation. So overwhelmingly positive, supportive messages that I received. Obviously, because those that weren't positive and supportive probably unfollowed. But I want to read one conversation. I was going to share it without the person's stuff in there. But I feel like you don't get full context on social media, so I wanted to bring it to the podcast. So I'm going to read through it because it does a good job of giving the other side and hits on a lot of the points that I would want to hit on that we can kind of dive into for the rest of this conversation based on the way it was taken from someone who did not agree with me. And this wasn't a scathing anything. We don't agree. And I'll just read it. So from the person, I considered unfollowing yesterday. I have silenced, temporarily hidden a number of people I follow on various platforms to not give the satisfaction of believing that I am triggered or need to do self-reflection. Those were the words that I used in a follow-up story. It's hard to swallow this type of grandstanding on this topic when people are sending prayers for him, but don't post about prayers for children being gunned down in schools or when Paul Pelosi was attacked. No prayer sent his way. I am sure Trump was traumatized by what happened, and I hope he gets the help he needs. I think the reason for people unfollowing is because if you're offering prayers, where are the prayers for other innocent people who have been attacked? Some might argue if you sow hatred, this is what happens. People also have the right to not support people online whose ideology doesn't align with theirs. And maybe they saw your post as someone whose ideology doesn't align and they no longer want to support you in that. It's not that the prayers are polarizing. Again, I said this became polarizing. It's the man you're praying for and what he's done to the country and the people who live in it. He's sown hatred and gone out of his way to hurt many groups. I am sure it's hard to lose followers, but I am kind of surprised you don't understand why. I have a business and I don't post about politics. I am sure you didn't believe prayers are political. I have ventured to guess your political views for a while now. I know a number of people in your space who have similar stances on topics you have spoken on, and their politics tend to sit a specific way. I didn't unfollow you then. I am guessing people may have already guessed how you felt, and that post just solidifies it for them. My initial response. The post wasn't about politics. It was about being human. Many people are losing sight of that. You also don't have to guess my political stance. I've been very open about that too. I'm a believer in RFK Jr., the candidate who is attempting to bring us together. It's a bit strange to me that others wonder about everyone else's political stance. The way a person handles themselves, the messages they put out to the world, the way they treat others is all that matters. Don't let the media manipulate you into thinking any other way. There is no us versus them. That's how we all lose.
Can we pause there for a second?
I want to go through it all because we're going to circle back to a lot of this.
Okay.
Response from them. It's edited now, so I don't know if this was the original. See, that's your perspective. I have mine, and other people following you have theirs. It's their right to choose who they want to support. I am not trying to discourage you from posting how you feel. I am pointing out why people may be unfollowing you. And again, you're grandstanding by assuming I am being manipulated because I don't agree with you. It is interesting in a back and forth. Just want to share why people might be unfollowing. I responded. I didn't need the explanation. I understand it. It's disappointing is all I was saying. Not that I lost followers, as I specifically said. I don't care that I lost followers, but that it was for this reason. Also, I didn't say that you were being manipulated because you don't agree with me. If someone doesn't agree that we should be praying for a man that was almost killed, well, there are some things that person needs to work through. All love here. Their response. I think it's a lack of vocal prayers for all the innocent people and children killed from gun violence and political attacks on the liberal side, and this was the one you chose to find humanity in. All love here too. My response, last one, and that is a fair question. My thought process is that when something like that happens, it's not polarizing. We can all agree that is a horrendous act, pure evil. We know it, and we can all grieve in our own ways. This situation is one people find themselves divided on, unfortunately. That has already been proven to be true. In a country that has been walking on eggshells for years, this felt like the time to speak. We can't afford to become more divided. There will come a point of no return, and the thought of that is terrifying. I will take the negative repercussions of this if it has the potential to move us closer together through these conversations. Rather than stay silent, letting the divide grow, and leaving the world in ruins for our kids.
Mic drop. I want to start, well, I feel like this is a great example to bring up first. I know there's a lot of things you want to talk about, but first bring up the fact that in 2024, it's almost like you can't share your political stance without the fear of being canceled.
But
and
even to that point,
and
why are you wondering about my political stance?
Like,
what the fuck does it matter who I support politically?
Like,
you've seen my post, you see how I am as a person, but you're wondering who I'm going to vote for? Why the fuck is that your question?
And even if you are wondering, like, people use that now today as a reason to build more hate and mistrust. Like,
exactly.
I don't feel like it's always been like that. When I remember growing up, like, I remember like family members and just hearing adults talk about politics all the time. There would be disagreements, but at the end of the day, you're still friends with those people. Like, you can still see eye to eye. You can have these conversations and go back and forth and come around and be like, okay, like, we don't agree on this. We do agree on this, whatever. And it's still friendly. You can't do that today.
You are being programmed to not be able to do that today.
Like, it's not possible. I don't know. I just think that's, I don't know.
I'm telling you, there's going to be a documentary on that specific thing. So, yeah, like I said, I don't hide. Like,
we've talked about it before on the podcast.
I don't love either candidate. I feel like since we've been able to vote, you've been choosing between a douche and a turd sandwich. Like, South Park does the funniest job taking real life issues and making hilarious episodes out of them. And they literally had an episode, I don't remember what year it was, but they were voting for their school mascot, and it was a douche or a turd sandwich. And half the school didn't want to vote because it didn't matter because they both suck. And that's how it's felt for a long fucking time. People say RFK is a throwaway vote. It's an independent party. Where am I going to turn when it comes to the actual? I hope that's the guy. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm not hiding that. And I didn't post Trump because I'm wearing a MAGA hat. I've been wearing my fucking RFK hat since a couple years ago, whenever he came out. I heard him on a podcast, didn't have any idea who he was. Just his stance on the healthcare system and all the problems that we've been talking about for years. That's how he got my ear.
Yeah.
And then I started following, and I agree with a lot of the things that he says. And, cleaning up the agencies in the government. All this shit is so corrupt. The media is so corrupt. We're all so sick and tired of it. That should be the one thing we can all unite on. And we still find a way to dance back into the ring and start taking swings. And it blows my mind. As far as not going on every time to post about every tragedy that happens, that's a fair point.
I think you summed it up perfectly, though. Like, I don't know. I feel like during an election year, like, people are more inclined to post more about these things. But at the same time, like, I don't know. It's also not I think people give influencers this too. Like, why aren't you posting about this? Why aren't you posting about this?
And then why are you posting about this?
It's not someone who has a lot of eyeballs on their account's job to be posting about all world issues, especially if they have no idea what the heck they're talking about. I would rather them not say anything if they have no idea what's happening than being forced to put out an opinion when you literally just have no clue what's going on. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, even celebrities, like, I don't care what this person's political stance is. I don't care what they have to say. Like, they're just a person who has a lot of money and has a voice, yeah, and maybe can influence people, but like,
to that point, they get no additional weight. Like, them saying something doesn't have any additional pull. If they want to share it, I'm not going to hold it for them or against them.
Right.
Like, that's just their view. That's fine. They get all the flack. The influencers get the flack. There's no reason for the flack. I don't give two shits what your political beliefs are. If they don't agree, if they do agree, cool. That has nothing to do with me.
Having an opinion and sharing, for example, your political stance is controversial in 2024, and it should not be.
When I say, I'm going to backtrack too, just because someone's going to jump on that clip. When I say it has nothing to do with me, I understand who you vote for is going to impact everything else. I understand that. I'm talking about in personal life, my view on you as a person. Unless you are supporting slavery, something the issue to that magnitude, we can disagree on everything else. Slavery, bad. If you think it's good, yes, we have a beef. Any other little thing, some are big, some are little. Again, here is me putting the quotations and the asterisks on everything to avoid the backlash. We can get through to be civil to each other and use our words to come together to find the best answer for the world. So if I am in politics and we have a disagreement, why is that your side? Here's why this is my side. Does your side make more sense? I'm okay with being wrong. Why do you feel that way? How is this going to improve the world? Okay, I was wrong. You were right. Let's go with your idea. And I hear about these arguments that happen in Congress and all these, wherever else you're voting, passing bills, whatever. Someone who agrees with the bill about to be passed, but keeps it in their pocket, says, I'm not going to vote for this until I get that. Understanding what the greater good is, but saying, yep, that's good, but until I get my toy, my thing, you're not getting your toy, your thing. That drives me nuts. We can't do that as civilians. Our public servants, and I'm saying that with quotes because they're not public servants, they're ruling the fucking world and they're having their chains pulled to rule us, aren't doing their job, even when they have the ability to do so, even when they agree with what's about to happen. And that's been public. Hey, this guy in this house, whatever, isn't voting for this. He agrees with it until he gets X, Y, and Z. Go fuck yourself.
People don't
That's the world we live in.
People cannot have conversations like that anymore and don't know how to listen. They're not listening. They are going into conversations with a response already without being open to hearing what the other person has to say.
They're waiting for you to stop talking so they can then say their stance again.
Yep.
If you can't go into a conversation willing to be wrong for the greater good, then don't even go into the conversation. Stay home until you're ready to be an adult.
Yeah. And I think that's really what all of this circles back around to, is we've lost the ability to communicate and to connect and to actually listen to people. And I don't know what really started that, but I'm sure the whole pandemic thing did not help. I think it just got worse from that point. But yeah, I mean, something needs to shift here or it's not going to get any better than it is today.
We are being programmed to dehumanize all these situations. When you look at what happened the other day with Trump almost getting shot in the head, clip in his ear. As a human, we all know that's wrong. But you have a significant portion of followers, country, world, fill in the blank, who are like, too bad they missed.
A lot of people.
Maybe next time.
A lot of people are saying that. It's not just a few, which is...
Did I miss anything in the news where Trump has killed anybody? Have I missed anything where he's ordered a hit on people? Has he been a part of any mass murders? But because you don't agree with certain things and you feel he's been hateful towards specific groups, that's been debated back and forth forever. Let's say that is the case. Does he deserve to die? Or should he maybe go in time out for a while and think about things and do some self-reflection and figure out how he can be a better person? At what point do you realize that killing somebody that even has done bad things? Do we shoot everybody who robs a bank, who didn't kill anybody? No weapons. They just walked in and took the money. Do we shoot them when they're done? Do we shoot them for speeding? Where do you draw the line? At what point do you say, okay, it's cool, execution? Child molesters, do they even get executed? I don't think so.
Not all of them.
So we look at the wars, the forever wars that happen. We look at these things, these conflicts around the world. And we've been dehumanized to death, to killing. Every single innocent person who dies is a tragedy, whether you agree with them or not. And we don't view it like that anymore. Kill him. Off. Done. You don't care. We're ignorant to it. Doesn't affect us. That's not the world I want my kids to grow up in. It's sad. That was my point of the post. is we are now dehumanized. We are desensitized, regardless of who you agree with, who you believe in.
There's no empathy.
There's no empathy. There's no compassion. This isn't the real world anymore. This is like a video game. And I don't really understand it. There was another direction I wanted to take that, and I totally forgot in the middle of that rant. Anyway, that was the point of all this, is to remember that we're all human and that we're going in a bad direction. And I remember what I was going to say. Talking about walking on eggshells for years, it has felt like we've been on the brink of civil war. That's not even the only threat at this point. I feel like it is still a threat. We're now on the brink of World War III, and nuclear weapons are on the table again. One bad move, and these things start firing off. But what do you think happens then? You think the planet's in bad shape right now? Wait until we have Russia and the U.S. and China just going back and forth. Boom, 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 boom. Talking about, RFK had another thing today, talking about projections. 90 million Americans would be dead in the first day, and another 90 million in the next 6 months. And that could happen at any time, any wrong move. And we're desensitizing death? Well, what happens when half the country goes out? These are things we're not thinking about. So this is food for thought today, guys. I understand it was a heavier episode. I did not want it to be political. I hope it didn't come across as political. This is just a conversation about humanity. So let's all take the day to do some self-reflection, figure out how we can become better personally as humans, and then come together.
All of us can become better.
Every single person.
There's never a limit to where you're at when it comes to that. So when we say self-reflection, I mean, it's stuff we are always working on too over here.
Daily basis. So what kind of world do you want to leave to your kids? Do you want to have a world to leave to your kids, or are you praying that Elon's got this thing chalked up going to Mars real soon? Because that's where we're at. Where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
I'm at Josh Skutnik.
Everything you need is linked in the show notes.